My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. It's all down to 3 teams. One sitting in the final waiting for Tuesday and the other 2 battling it out in another knockout game. We call it Qualifier 2. You can call it an eliminator because in reality that's what it is. The team that loses today is on a flight. Delhi against Hyderabad. We're calling it Qualifier number 2 because that's what the official classification is. It's Abu Dhabi, the venue. And at the very top, before we discuss anything else, it's been news that's rather startling in terms of the toss. And I have to talk about it at the top because it seemed a no-brainer while we were chatting before the show. Win the toss, field first, great relief, bit of dew. Teams batting second have been winning every single game, bar one in recent times. But gentlemen, at the very top, Delhi have won the toss, decided to bat first. Is it just a reverse jinx when everything's been going wrong? Shaun Pollock, Joy Bhattacharjya, who wants to take this question first?
Go, Joy.
Yeah, look, I think it's just very interesting. The moment they said it, 2 things I noticed. One was when he was out of the toss at that point in time, Shreyas did not even remember his complete team. So he's saying that, I've got in Praveen Dubey, and then he doesn't remember the second player. It shows you how, he is a bit stressed. For a young kid, it's not an easy thing to be, in that kind of a situation. So that is one. But the other, even more interesting one is that my sense is that they feel they have an inexperienced middle order. They have an inexperienced batting lineup. They don't want to chase when they're inexperienced. When you're inexperienced, you want to put runs on the board and let your bowlers take the pressure, not the batsmen. That's my sense. There can be no other explanation because the odds are otherwise so heavily favouring what you call chasing that I can't think of any other reason. Ricky Ponting would have looked at those guys and said, you know what, I think it's better we just put runs on the board. Let's be counterintuitive. Let's not bother about the ground. Let's play our game right. And I think that's what he would do.
Yeah, Shaun Pollock, it almost seems like a Ponting type decision rather than the captain walking into the dressing room and saying, listen, guys, this is a brainwave I've had.
Yeah, I was going to make 2 points. First of all, I think they're so low on confidence in the batting department that they don't want the additional pressure of scoreboard pressure. So if they have to go out and bat and get 170 or 180, I think the team just wants them to go and play, set the tone, and try and use whatever confidence they have got. I would have expected they would have had some good training sessions in the last few days, and the support staff would have been all on their case to try and install some confidence, get them believing in themselves, and I think this is the best way for their batting unit. They have got a lot of experience. We've mentioned about the bowling department, so they're probably looking, besides maybe Dubey, who now comes into the mix. But I think it also goes down to the Australian way, doesn't it? I mean, every Australian, they talk about finals, we've got to get runs on the board. So I think that's where it's come from. It's probably been something that has been discussed, but I think Ricky's probably had his way.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess we're in agreement there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as startling as it possibly is. You could talk about that knockout game. Just try and banish all the blues other than the blue that's on their jersey. And I agree with Joy. It was 2 simple changes that we're talking about in terms of no Prithvi Shaw, no Daniel Sams. 2 people coming in are Shimron Hetmyer and Praveen Dubey. Not very difficult to remember that, especially when they're your teammates. Hetmyer, you cannot possibly even forget, even in a dark alley. And Praveen Dubey has been the new kid on the block. So 2 changes, Joy. Interesting. One, you've got this explosive, experienced player. And the other, you're throwing in a youngster in the deep end.
Yeah, look, we spoke exactly about this change a few days back. And we said that this is the only way that it can possibly work. The only way it can possibly work is have a situation where you take away Sams. Because Sams is the only bowler who's doing nothing for you. And despite his great international reputation, he's not getting that respect. Guys are actually going after him. So they're saying if they're going to go after batsmen, let them at least go after somebody like a leg spinner who's not easy to get hold of in this ground. If he strikes balls slightly wide and starts pushing it away, turning it away from the batsman, for you to be able to get contact and to really give it a whack is not that easy. So if that bowler, if Praveen Dubey, he's not a kid, mind you, he may not have had that much experience. He's 26, 27 years old. So he knows what to do. And they'd rather him than Sams and then get Hetmyer in because Hetmyer does not allow himself. He's not the kind of batsman to bog himself down with what's happened, what's not happened. He's going to go. He sees the ball. If it's worth being hit, he'll hit. So I think these are good changes for them. I mean, you could have debated whether they kept Rahane or Shaw. I tend to agree that Rahane was also a better choice than Shaw in the circumstances.
Yeah, 50-50 call.
3 points for me. I think after watching the last game that took place at Abu Dhabi, I'm not sure if it's the same surface or not, but we saw all the spinners play such a good role. Zampa came in, the leggies, everyone really did go well. So it makes sense. I think that at this stage of the tournament, wickets probably worn, get him in, he'll probably be more effective. Secondly, to get Hetmar back in, I like the thought of two left-handers in the middle overs there. I think Nadeem and Rashid have been brilliant in tying up the right-handers in particular. So I think the left-handers might just give them a bit more freedom to alternate. And then if you look to the top of the order, I mean, Ajinkya Rahane, I know he failed in the last game, but he comes off a 60-odd not out in the game before. So if anyone's got a little bit of confidence, he's also got more international experience. So for a big game like this, I think it's a good call to go with him ahead of Prithvi.
Yep. Well summed up by Shaun Pollock. And of course, when you have the luxury of the two South Africans, who I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in the show, you know that you can dispense with the other international in Daniel Sams, who's given 80 runs in his 2 outings. So I think that has been forgiven or forgettable rather for him, not forgiven, forgettable for Daniel Sams. But the other news everyone's asking about is the opposition. Which of the 2 Kolkata boys will have the gloves in hand? Well, the answer is it's going to be Shrivats Goswami yet again. Hamstring tear for Riddhiman Saha means that he doesn't find his way back, and that's going to be a disappointment because he was in sizzling form with the bat. They'd finally found something. But Shrivats solid with the gloves in hand, Shaun Pollock, but just hasn't had any outings to be able to express himself as we know he can do up the order.
Yeah, very unfortunate. You know, Saha is a massive blow for them. We talked about how hopefully he would be back for this big encounter. But I think, you know, from a management perspective, you've got to go to Goswami and you've got to say to him, listen, you haven't played much cricket. What do we want from you? If you can just give us 20 of 12 or 13 deliveries, job done. That's all you've got to focus at. Don't worry about too much other big things. Just back yourself. Watch the ball as closely as you can. If you get a 20 of 13, you have done brilliantly for us. And I think that's the way. The other guys, we know they want to be at the crease. Pandey's played well. Kane Williamson's played well. Holder's starting to find his form. So they have got depth. But what do you want from the start? You just don't want to get him out like in the last match where he got out early and then there's pressure on the guys coming in. If he can just find a way of getting 20 and Warner stays with him for the first 6 overs, no problems whatsoever, then I feel like he's done a job. And that's where they've got to be focusing. I think he'll be better for one run out as well. The nerves of getting out for nothing, you sort of forget about that now, have another few net sessions. And I'm sure they'll spend a lot of time. Whatever he wanted in the last few days, they would have given him. Do you want to bat for an hour? Here we go. You're the man. Go and have as much practice as you need.
Yeah, and he's that kind of guy, Joy. I mean, even when he cannot push his way into the Bengal side, if Riddhiman Saha's around and he's keeping, he has played as a batsman. He is an aggressive batsman, so he would not mind that role.
Not at all. At least, I think about 2.5, 3 years back, he had this real streak where he had 3-4 centuries, really lit it up there. The guy can hit. And, you know, he's a very, in that sense, he's Parthiv Patel and a bit better. In the sense that he's best in the first few overs because, you know, he can hit it over the top, has the freedom. But he's actually explosive enough to play it. I mean, he can play on the 8th, 9th over. Like Parthiv, after a while, struggles to find the boundaries once the field is out. Actually, little Shrivats packs quite a punch, you know. He can hit it pretty hard. So, exactly, they'll hope that he has that kind of form today. They'll hope he has that kind of innings. His problem often has been that he's too eager to get on with it very fast. And these guys, anyone who knows him would know that, you know, either give him either at his toe or at his head, don't give him anything in between. And of course, there are very few batsmen who can sort of survive that kind of treatment in any case. And especially when Rabada is giving it to you at 150. But, you know, that's what they'll do to him. But I'm rooting for him because, you know, he's had his breaks and he's been a tremendous cricketer. And, you know,
yeah, he's a great guy, good friend of mine, and also wish him all the best. But in terms of picking teams, well, you can't afford to think of people you like or dislike. You've got to be very neutral in your thought process. Just download the app with a very cool mind. Pick your 11 players, pick a captain, pick a vice captain. You know the drill. That's the way to go. And of course, you also know the drill. We like to help you out from time to time with my 11 Circle trump card pick. So while we've reminded you to put your team in, our trump card pick for today is Shahbaz Nadeem, someone who's really added to that lineup for the boys in orange, supporting Rashid Khan, even when Rashid Khan was not picking wickets. Shahbaz Nadeem at the other end was. So 18 wickets, 6 matches. 5 wickets in 6 matches, 18 overs. But the big thing about those wickets, Shaun Pollock, is they came at key times and they were big wickets, some big fish in there.
Yeah, it's a good call. I think as your trump card for this match, I think he's been really impressive. I love the way he bowled with the control. He's very flat at times, but I think even with being flat, he doesn't give you those balls to hit. He hits a good length, which makes it difficult to get under him at times. And I mean, he was bowling to the likes of AB de Villiers, who was finding it very difficult to get him away. So he's done a pretty good job. And I think, as a perfect foil for Rashid in the middle overs as well. I think as a combination, I think they've been absolutely brilliant in how they've created lots of pressure in those middle overs everyone's looking at Rashid and thinking, well, let's not get out to him. Let's not give him that momentum of wickets, and let's maybe try and knock him for 6 and over if we can, and then maybe go after someone else. So in many ways, they've been trying to go after Nadeem, and he's held his nerve brilliantly enough with those facts and figures. And there's actually a look at from 7 to 15. You can see the overall economy rate, and look at the good contribution that the spinners have made in those last 6 games since he's been involved. So, yeah, he's been an important little cog. Everyone who's actually come into this SRH team has now worked out what their role is, and I think they're all doing it very well.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was picking up on. The fact that also when you're better than overall means that you're better than Holder, who's been absolutely spectacular for them. So their fast bowling has also been very good for them. So the fact that very often they've been better than the fast bowlers is fantastic. Also, what's happened is Rashid was not being able to apply pressure up front because people like Vijay Shankar or Samad were getting the ball at the other end and they were leaking runs. It's very difficult to apply pressure from one end. And what has happened now is he's just managed to break that away. Because he is now giving them very, very good economy from that side. And that means that Rashid just becomes a much more difficult proposition.
Yes, certainly has. 164 dot balls he's bowled in the season so far. And I think that itself is a story. 16.73, the economy, 5.3. That's insane. I mean, you take that economy even in 50 over cricket. And just imagine, you'd accept 7, probably Shaun Pollock in this form of the game. And he's 5.3.
I'll tell you what, if I had to captain this side, every morning I would just send a message to Rashid Khan just to find out that he's okay. Because he has been that big a player for me. I just want whatever he wants to make him feel comfortable, whatever food he wants to eat, whatever he needs, just keep him as happy as he can possibly be. Because if he's going to continue to produce those results, which he has done, I mean, his economy rate, I think in the last 4 RPLs has been under 7, and this one is the first time he's been under 6. It's absolutely brilliant, and he picks up the wickets as well. In the field, he's got intensity. When he comes to the crease, he doesn't waste any balls. I just think he's a brilliant, gifted cricketer, and what a person to have in your unit. So I would always make sure every morning, just check on him, make sure he's okay.
I think if the call did come, Joy, the 2 things he'd ask for first and foremost, if I know him well enough, is zafrani chai and dry fruits. And I don't think there's any shortage of that in that part of the world.
Exactly. All the dates he wants, all the dry fruits he wants, he'll be very happy out there. And not only that, given where he is, of course, this year it is one of those things where not many people come over. But normally in Hyderabad, the cuisine would suit him to a T. I mean, in that way, all the good food he'd get, all the Hyderabadi biryani, the paradise stuff, all the good stuff he'd get, everything to make him happy. And you're right, it's the same. It's a George Best kind of thing. Get the ball whenever possible, give it to George Best. That's all coach telling my man, but you should tell people. Don't bother about anything else, let him do the rest.
I think the one thing that he relies a lot on, Shaun Pollock, is the dot balls. We can call it date balls, if you want to, date balls. But yeah, he keeps stressing. Every time you have an interview, and he's a great thinking cricketer, he'll tell you, listen, I cannot pick up wickets every single ball, much as I'd like to. But what I focus on is, if I can't take that wicket, what's the length I must bowl so that the batsman doesn't hit me?
Yeah, I think if you look at his technique, there's a lot of overspin on his deliveries. So what happens there is, if he hits a back of a length, say, for example, Zampa hits 6 meters. If Rashid Khan hits 6 meters, the ball almost bounces, and because of the forward spin on it, it gets to you quicker. So if you're looking to pull him, you get rushed to play the shot. It doesn't sit up like other leg spinners. And also when he bowls that good length with the different variations, it gets onto you a little bit quicker. And that's what makes him capable of bowling those dot deliveries. It's a unique action. It's not something that would be easy to copy. But we've seen in the T20 format, I mean, how many examples are there of guys with in different actions that just create that little X factor? Someone like a Lasith Malinga, Sal Tanvir. I mean, all those guys who've got something different. You can't face it. You can't practice against it. And that's what makes him such a difficult customer is you get to the crease and he's on you and the ball's hitting your bat like harder than most leg spinners. And you just feel like you're chewing up deliveries and the dot balls and the pressure starting to build. And that's one of his key factors for sure.
Yeah, it's not quite Joy, the frog in the blender from Hoja, Paul Adams, but maybe it's halfway there, Shaun. Would you say about halfway? Half.
Yeah, well, or I don't know. I think we'd just say maybe he was one day watching and he was inspired, and that's his version of it, maybe.
Yeah, I once did an interview with Paul Adams in Durban, and I said, listen, I'm not interested in technical questions. I just want you to teach me your action. And I can tell you, I couldn't sleep for 3 days because he actually tried to teach me. I tried to imitate it. It's not easy. You get a crick in your neck.
No, the funniest thing about Paul Adams, though, is he used to say to us, no, he only bowls spin like that. So we said, what do you mean you only bowl spin like that? He said, if he bowls seamers, he doesn't bowl with that action. So I said, what? I said, there's no way you can change the action. I said, here's a new ball. Let me bowl me an in-swinger or left arm in-swinger. Sure as nuts. He runs up, same action exactly, and comes out like that. And I said to him, what do you mean? He said, no, that was upright. So, he was a bit confused. When he thought he used to bowl seam up, it didn't. It was exactly the same action whether he was bowling spin or was bowling fast.
In fact, the closest I've seen was that Gujarat Lions kid. What was it? Shivin Kaushik, who had a very similar action. He was the last person who had an action like that. And I mean, I find it very strange when the bowler doesn't actually see when the ball is being delivered. It's something that, but the logic must be that if I don't know where the ball is going, how would the batsman, I think that was the logic that's used.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. We need to find out where Mr. Kaushik has disappeared. We can almost make an 11 of IPL talents or little budding talents who have disappeared. For now, let's focus on one who's not going anywhere. He's very much on our boost stamina meter as we look ahead to this particular game, and we've picked a big player. It's a big game, and let's have a look at the leaderboard. Interestingly, picks on the boost stamina meter don't always feature there, but we have reasons to put them in. Have a look at that list. Just outside that list with a rating in the 70s still is skipper of the Sunrisers Hyderabad, David Warner. 71.3 is batting rating, but look at the runs. 546 runs from 15 games. Strike rate, that's a lot better than it was early on in the season. Average of 53 balls that he's staying. We know he runs a lot between the wickets. And of course, someone like a bit like Faf du Plessis, Shaun Pollock, he's in the hot spots and picking up those catches. And of course, he happens to be the captain.
Yeah, indeed. And the overall rating is great to see 6 of the bowlers in there. That's where the stamina department's all about, the fit customers who keep producing and winning games and tournaments for their team. But Warner is full of stamina, isn't he? I mean, if you think just about his fielding, he'll run from prime position to the other position after consulting with the bowler and then getting out there. And he's always involved, isn't he? He's intense. He wants to be part of it. So there's no doubt that he's a good choice for the boost stamina meter.
Yeah, and certainly, and Joy, he's someone who he likes to be involved. I mean, most captains do, but he's not someone who'll sort of pass it on saying that, listen, if I'm far away at long off, why don't you at extra cover take the call? He'll come running and he'll do it.
Yeah, he'll come running. And it's very interesting because I remember in 2009 it was, and I always go back to this, that he just started off and we were talking to him. At that time, there were 3 prospects coming out from Australia, young prospects. One was Moises on Weeks, one was David Warner, one was Steve Smith. These were the 3 guys we were talking about. And the 2 things, the plus that he had was they said, there's nobody as ambidextrous as him. He could literally bat left-handed and he could literally bat right-handed. I mean, he can go bat right-handed. There wouldn't be too much difference in his score. He's that good both ways. And the second thing they said about him was, you've got to look after him because he's a bit, he's one of those boys. He's a larrikin. He's not going to be controlled. And I love it when larrikins mature and become captains and look after their teams and become the responsible people themselves. Because when they do, they're actually the best at it. Because, when a David Warner looks in the dressing room at the young naughty boy here, he'll look at him and say, I've done everything that you've done and more. So don't try that on me because I know exactly what you're trying. And therefore, I feel sometimes they make excellent captains. Ricky Ponting's the same.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time when Ponting became captain, we remembered an incident at a nightclub in Kolkata, and he was literally the brat, the bad boy of the team. And if you had told someone on that night that this is going to be a future captain of Australia, you'd be like, yeah, right, mate, no way. So it was not going to happen. But similar with David Warner, and good to see him maturing. But we promised to come to the discussion on the South Africans, at least one of them. But the reason we want to actually bring it in is maybe a dip in form, which is shown from the entire team. These two teams, in sharp contrast, have come into this game on the back of very, very different paths. Last 6 games for Hyderabad, have a look at that. 1-1-1-1-1, with just that one loss in between. For Delhi, it's been 5 losses out of 6. For Hyderabad, 5 wins out of 6. And that is something when you're coming into a knockout game. I know you'd want to tell yourself we'll forget the history, but Shaun, can you forget the history? Such recent history?
Yeah, it's difficult to forget it. Change of fortune, absolutely. Who would have thought Delhi would have been able to lose 5 games in a row after what we saw from them at the start of the tournament? And who would have thought SRH would have gone and won 5 out of 6 to get into the playoffs and be looking to head into the finals? So, yeah, it has been a massive turnaround. I think there have been some contributing factors. I think Delhi's batting has gone quiet. None of the guys besides Shika really made massive contributions. And then from a bowling side, the facts and figures of Kagiso Rabada haven't been all that good. I mean, there was one stage in the tournament where he was picking up wickets for fun. I mean, look at those first 9 games, 35 overs, 19 wickets, economy rate of just over 7.5. Now going at 9s, only 6 wickets. And his strike rate's gone up to 23. So they'll be hoping he turns it around. He is a big player, and big players often have the potential. But I just think maybe he's got to try and come up with a few different plans. Maybe he's become a little bit too predictable, and maybe he's got to try and search for a couple of new deliveries just to keep the batsmen guessing. We've seen Bumrah and Bolt and those guys in particular really using their skills to the advantage at the back end of this tournament. So I think Rabada might need to maybe look for something else. But the good news for the two South Africans is that this isn't called the semi-final. It's called the qualifier. So they'll be fine.
I didn't want to mention anything along those lines, Joy, but he likes to take it on the chin himself.
Yeah. His attitude is, let me say it before they start going at me. So after that, we can't say very much after that.
And it's a good thing, because when I looked down the list of all the talking points we were given by our industrious producer, point number 4 was Kagiso Rabada sucks. And I'm like, really? No. What I meant is, and he's in my ear going, I never said that. Of course, he didn't say that. He basically said, drop in Kagiso Rabada's form. Is it coinciding with drop in Delhi's form? I said, well, I'm not going to tell Shaun Pollock that. Let him bring it up himself. And he did. But yeah, it's fair to say, Shaun, when you're a class player and you've been delivering the goods at the start of the tournament, it will happen that if you go through a few bad games, your side might do the same.
Yeah, and you become dependable. I mean, the guys started to depend on your kind of performance. It's like, for example, if Rashid Khan all of a sudden had 3 or 4 bad games, it would throw SRH out the pool. They wouldn't know what to do and how to deal with those middle overs. It's like Lasith Malinga, what he used to do at the back end of an innings is just brilliant. What Bumrah does for Mumbai. So you do become a little bit reliant on these individuals. And I'm sure, I mean, as I say, he is a class player, and it hurts them, when they don't perform like they know they can. So he'll be looking to turn around today for sure.
Yes, and along with, of course, win the toss, bat first, which was a surprise. Ricky Ponting and Shreyas Iyer have thrown in one more. Marcus Stoinis walking out to open the batting with Shikhar Dhawan. Yeah, well done, Joy. That's it. So as a reward for that, we're going to get you to ask the quiz question on the show. So you do that every
What
day.
a surprise. What a surprise. Okay. Okay. The teams this particular player has represented: Punjab domestic side from 2005 onwards. In this event, Punjab 2008, Hyderabad 2011. In CPL, Barbados Trident 2018, St. Kitts and Nevis 2020. Name him and the country he represents in international cricket. It's a very interesting record. Punjab, Kings 11, Hyderabad, Barbados Tridents, Kitts and Nevis. Who is this player and who does he represent? And I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty, that Gautam Bhimani knows the answer.
Yeah, well, and as I said, I mean, I'm very biased. Anything to do with the CPL, I will obviously have far too many hints. I'm not even opening my mouth on this one for all of you. #CricBuzz Live. But the one thing I don't have a clue on, and I generally never do, is what the team batting first is going to score at the end of 20 overs. So,
oh, that's easy. That's easy. It's 167.
oh, fine. How much is it? 167, is it?
167. Yeah.
167. Well, will they get that much? They certainly need a lot more of that. I'm going to go in second. I know Ricky Ponting's been informed. This is, by the way, for the My 11 Circle Badge of Honor. Marcus Stoinis opening the batting. Shimron Hetmeyer's in there. It's going to be fun and games. They've decided to bat first, but I don't think they're going to get that much. 155 is what I'm going for, Joy.
Okay, I'm going above. I'm going 176, and Rahane is going to score a few.
176, and he's thrown in Rahane, so we have to give him 2 badges if both things happen. Yeah, well done.
And if they get 176 and Rahane gets nothing, then he doesn't get it.
It reminds me, there's some cartoon or comic book where the characters, I don't know if you remember this, Joy, are named by certain numbers. They're prison numbers.
Yeah,
167,
the Beagle Boys. The Beagle Boys.
The Beagle Boys, that's it.
The guy who always chasing Donald Duck and this thing. The Beagle Boys, the nasty guys.
Correct.
Business with their numbers out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are 176s and 167s in there. If
95, 167, 16179. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
6 Beagle Boys there. Yeah.
So if you go by the Beagle Boys, it's between Shaun Pollock and Joy Bhattacharjya. I've thrown in a figure that has nothing to do with prisoners, Beagle Boys or anything. So I won't be taking any prisoners here. What I will be doing is I'll be around on the 10th over for Cricbuzz Combox. And of course, all 3 of us will be back at the end to see how much Delhi have got after they've decided, surprisingly, to bat first. Marcus Stoinis, Shikhar Dhawan, into bat. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, fun and games.